Welcome back to A Geek's Garage. This week's video and next week's video are going to be a little bit different. I started working on the interior of the car over the summer, and I recorded a bunch of videos of different things that I did, but I didn't really do them in such a way that it was easy to put them together into a real good viewable video. So I've taken what I can and kind of pulled them together. They're certainly not going to be as good as some of the ones I did around the engine teardown and engine removal, but I figure I post them out there for anybody who wants to try and do some of the interior work. I'll just show you what I did, and hopefully it helps out someone somewhere. So I decided to pull the carpet out of the car and redo it, and next week's video should have some of the work that I did in redoing the carpet. But right now what I'm doing is I'm actually prepping the interior panel pieces. I've gone ahead and removed the old carpet, which required removing a bunch of staples and then slowly peeling the carpet off. It was held on with a very tacky glue, and what I'm doing right now is actually going through and removing that old glue. And I'm using Duplicolor spray adhesive remover, but you'll see in a later part of the video I actually go over and start using paint thinner, because quite honestly paint thinner worked just as well, if not better. Eagle-eyed viewers may notice that there's really two different types of adhesive. There's a yellowish color on one of the panels and a what appears to be a white adhesive on the other panel. There's a reason for that. The process of redoing these panels took me 2 or 3 times to get the process down. So again, that's why I'm sharing it, and hopefully it'll help some other people. One of the big things, and I'll talk about it when I start putting the carpet on and sizing it and whatnot, is make sure that you use the right type of adhesive for the carpet that you're applying. The adhesive I had used on the one panel that's sitting there that has a white adhesive on it did not hold the carpet because of the type of backing that's on the carpet. So I'll leave you here while I finish cleaning all the adhesive off of these parts, and talk to you again when we jump into reapplying. So what I'm going to show you here is the process that I use to affix the carpet onto the parts. I didn't video a lot of the pre-steps, but one of the things I would highly recommend is ensuring that when you take the old pieces of carpet off, you save it as a template and use that to kind of cut out the piece that you're going to be, your new piece of carpet you're going to be using. So I'm using a piece of rough sandpaper to go through and just kind of rough up the plastic a little bit. This should help with the adhesive, and I do the same thing to the back of the carpet. One other thing to note, you'll see that I've got a piece of cardboard as a backing right now. I was using that as backing to sort of catch the spray when I would have overspray from the spray adhesive. Don't flip a carpet over onto a piece of backing that happens to have spray adhesive on it, because then you get spray adhesive into the carpet. Yet another one of my lessons learned. So now I'm going through and just wiping everything down with some rubbing alcohol just to make sure that everything is really clean and ready for the glue. Now that the pieces are prepped, it's time to start getting it fitted properly. The trim has a basically a slot that the carpet kind of rolls into in order to make it a nice meeting between the plastic and the rest of the trim. And so the big thing is you got to kind of get the carpet in there and then properly bending and molding around the shape. So the way that you do that is by cutting some small relief cuts where the carpet is going to bend, but you need to be really careful in doing it, because again, if you cut it wrong, you're starting all over again with a new piece of carpet, and you only get so much spare carpet. Once the relief cut's in there, you want to make sure that you get the carpet fully down all the way into the slot, pushed all the way in, because what we're going to do next is actually apply some heat with a heat gun in order to start helping mold the plastic that is the plastic backing on the carpet in order to help it kind of shape better. You'll see I bring out a putty knife here to kind of push it in and make sure that it really gets all the way down in the slot, because it is tight. The carpet, aftermarket carpet, is definitely thicker than the carpet that comes with the OEM or with the car originally. So now we're going to use a hot air gun, and the hot air gun is going to be used to just sort of make everything a little bit more pliable and allow us to put a little bit more of a shape into the backing of the carpet. And this will make it work much better when we go to actually glue everything down, because there'll be some positional memory, if you will, in the carpet, and it'll just apply a lot better. So now that the piece is kind of set in there, I'm going to go through a few more attempts at just trimming up some small edges on the carpet to make sure that it's going to fit perfectly. And then we'll do one more attempt at heating it up in order to make it mold to the angles that we're going to want to do here. When I finally had it the way that I really wanted it, I heated it up again, again just using the hot air gun, made sure to mold it and get it fit to where I wanted it to be, and then you'll notice I'm actually going to clamp it down to the table so that it slowly cools in the position that I want it. And while it doesn't make this a perfect bend in a perfect shape, it definitely makes a difference in the overall shape of the carpet and when I go to start gluing pieces on, how it stays. So unfortunately, this is just a little bit more example of me not recording things properly to make everything really make sense. But as I'm going forward here, what I'm about to do is start gluing the carpet to the backing. And the way that I'm going about doing this is I went through and laid the carpet down, and I'm going to do it in sections. And I looked up how to reupholster seats and things like that, and one of the ways that I saw people doing it was to do it in sections and to really kind of block off the area that you're going to use the spray adhesive on. So that's what I did. If you notice, there's a red line there. I laid the carpet over and then found what area was going to be in contact with the plastic and traced it out with a permanent marker. And now I'm just kind of masking it off with some painter's tape to kind of keep the overspray from getting in areas where I don't want it. One thing to note, and I mentioned it earlier, the adhesive that you use to stick the carpet to the plastic trim pieces is really important. The original glue that I used was just a standard spray adhesive, and it wasn't designed to work with the type of plastic backing that was on my particular carpet. So at this point, we'll shake the can vigorously, because that's what the instructions say to do. And then we're going to go ahead and put down a good coat across both sides of what we want to stick. So both the mating surface as well as the carpet itself. And you'll see that I'm making multiple passes in an attempt to make sure that I get a really good coating on there. And then once you've put it on there, you're supposed to actually let it sit for a few minutes until it gets tacky before you actually go ahead and lay the two pieces together. For me, I let them sit about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It probably should have been longer. I think it would have done better adhesion on the first try if I had let them sit just a little bit longer. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and remove all the extra masking tape because it doesn't need to be there anymore. And we're going to go ahead and lay the two pieces down, or lay the carpet over the top of the plastic to start mating the two surfaces together. You have a few minutes where you can kind of undo and redo to make sure that everything is properly centered and set up correctly. So you'll see I kind of go through and check it in a few different ways to make sure that everything is lined up. I also get the putty knife back out again in a minute and kind of push everything back down in, make sure that everything's in as far as in tight as it can go. because once it does start to set, it sticks pretty well. So now that I have everything properly placed, I want to make sure that I keep pressure on it while the glue properly dries. So the way I'm going to do that is actually flip it over carpet side down, and I'm going to get a really thick blanket to kind of be able to use to mold around the different shapes and make sure that I'm not pushing down on any of the plastic hanger pieces or anything like that and breaking them off. And then I'm going to grab my closest Google server that I happen to have laying around and use that as a weight while I let it sit and dry. So at this point, it's 24 hours later. I've let that piece dry pretty well, and you can see I'm just going through and tracing out the rest of the area that I'm going to be spraying and then masking it off just as before. So what you'll see now is just me going through and repeating the process. We're going to go ahead and spray on the spray adhesive, let it sit for a little while, and then go through and mate the two pieces together. And again, same as before, I'll end by using the same really thick blanket in order to put pressure and kind of keep pressure on the pieces to keep them stuck together with a weight sitting on top of it. In this case, that same spare Google server I had sitting around in my basement. One thing that I did find was that the glue doesn't always dry at the same rate for some reason. So, you know, this is me checking on the part 24 hours later. You can see I'm just making sure that everything is still sticking down and it's following the curve and the pattern of the plastic itself. But I could tell, because it was still very, very cold, that it hadn't completely dried yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the blanket back on and again reapply the weight to keep it going for another, I think I left it for another 12 hours, quite frankly. Now that the main piece is all complete, I'm going to go ahead and finish off the last little piece at the end. Everything really kind of came together well and seems to have glued in place and stuck well. But on the end, there's a angle and a curve. And again, the carpet doesn't really like to take curved shape. So what I'm doing here is, again, heating it up just to try and get it a little bit more malleable. And then I'm going to use a couple of very large sockets that I had laying around that'll sort of help keep that shape, and then clamping them into there and letting them cool so that the plastic starts to retain that curved shape. And now that that curved shape is in there, we're just going to go ahead and use the spray adhesive one last time to go ahead and properly secure that last piece in there. Again, I'm going to use the sockets to kind of help apply the proper pressure to the curve so that it stays locked in place. Unfortunately, I didn't film any more of the process in finishing these pieces up. I let the pieces sit probably for 2 or 3 days before doing the final steps because of the amount of stress that I was going to be putting on the carpet in basically folding it over and stapling it to the back of the piece. It's the same way that the carpet was originally attached in the car when it was factory built. The big thing again in doing that is to heat along the edges and fold it over so that it stretches just a little bit, and then I used a small staple gun that had very short staples that went in and worked the exact same way that the original carpet was attached. One thing that I will caution you against doing, when one of the mistakes that I made that was not filmed was I thought that perhaps I could do something where I could do a relief cut into the backing of the carpet in order to make them bend better. Don't do that. It's very bad, and it ended up, even though I only slightly cut into the backing of the carpet, it ended up splitting all the way through, and I had to start all over again. So hopefully some of this helps. Good luck to you. Again, I'm not a professional in doing this. This is just how I did it, and I'm hoping that maybe it'll be of some use to some other people out there who are going through the same process. We'll close out this video with a couple of quick pictures of the completed pieces in place. This is sort of jumping ahead and covering some of the finished carpet as well, but that's for next week's video. So thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this channel, and leave any comments down below. See ya!